match. We were practicing that before. Because most people, it's not the common spelling of garden. It's with an L. So most people would say, what could these two people have in common? Well, in about 45 minutes, you will absolutely know. I didn't know much about you until I sat down with Lance,
Right.
my work boo, my career better half, for the last, I don't know, couple days. He's been talking about you. But the thing he gets most excited about, apart from everything else, which we're going to hear soon, and what your life has been, is the fact that you walk the golf course when you golf.
That's true.
Like, you don't take the car.
It's no big deal. No, sometimes I get in the car. We're very seldom. I walk the golf course, 18 holes.
18 holes.
That is not a big deal.
Okay, so it's a big deal for me, and I'm like a workout fanatic.
Wouldn't be a big deal.
Really?
No. You're just a walker. You're an exercise person, so you can do that.
Okay. You bike?
I do.
Right.
And I play tennis.
And you play tennis.
Right.
And those three keep you physically sound, fit, and able-bodied.
The last time the doctor looked at me and said I was okay.
Can I ask how old you are?
You can, and I will tell you.
Okay.
85.
85 years old.
85 years old. You ever seen an old 85-year-old person? Not to watch?
No, I've seen 85 that doesn't.
They're usually walking around slowly,
yeah.
right?
Well, how?
I have no idea.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. Luck can only get you so far.
It is true. You got to be lucky with your health. So if you don't have any serious problems, you get to 85 and you hope the next thing is 86, and so on and so forth. So
just out of curiosity, when is 86 for you?
86 is next July the 8th, and I don't want anything special. So
it's a shame, because I was actually going to leave here and go get you something special.
No.
No.
Really?
Okay.
No. I have all the things and stuff that I don't need any more stuff.
You don't need any more stuff. Where do you live here in New York City?
I don't live in New York City.
I got all my information correct, so that's cool. Things are working out well for me.
Absolutely. So I live in Roslyn, Long Island.
Okay.
But I have 2 children, which you may want to ask me about. Well, one of them lives on 71st Street, and the other one lives on 72nd Street.
Okay, so they're long
They're
distance.
in Manhattan.
Okay.
They're in Manhattan. So that's why I told Lance I was going to be here today in the city. And he said, okay, come on down.
So this is what we interrupted to bring you down to the show. You were taking Hebrew lessons.
I was.
Because at 85, look at me making you older than you are. Look at me making you an 86-year-old when you're only 85.
No, I've only been here for 5 minutes. I lost all my hair already. So
it's crazy.
It didn't take long at all.
Well, when the sun beats down, we're going to lose like calories. 85 years old, and yes. You decided, you know what I haven't done? I haven't learned Hebrew. I want to learn Hebrew. So you go and you sign up to learn Hebrew.
Right, I did. I learned how to read Hebrew.
You just want to know what it all means.
I want to know what it means. Right. I want to be able, if I go to Israel, I want to be able to speak to the locals.
85 is not too old to learn a new trick.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult, but I'm persevering. So we'll see.
Difficult because?
Because it's hard. When you get old, your brain doesn't work as fast, and your retention is not so good either. But we'll see. I was able to talk to Lance a few minutes ago, and he corrected my Hebrew immediately. So obviously I'm on a very slow path.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you could speak to me, and I wouldn't correct anything.
I know.
So your path would speed up rapidly.
You're more respectful and polite now.
Is that what it is? So Joe,
yes.
On top of being an avid golfer,
yes.
Which is what I hear you are just...
I'm okay.
You're turning heads left and right on the golf course.
Sure, yeah.
People can't even believe the torque in your swing.
They can't. They can't.
They can't.
They have no trouble believing anything that I do these days. But I'm, you know.
First, you seem to lighten up when you talk about your kids. Tell me about your kids.
Well, I have a daughter and a son, and I have a granddaughter. My son is a doctor.
Nice.
He's an interventional radiologist. Do you know what that means?
I would imagine he's doing the radiology
but interventionally. That means they also put wires in the body and stuff like that. So they put stents in and various things like that.
So it's like common sense medicine.
It's common sense medicine. Yeah, right. So everybody knows it. So,
of course.
Yeah. And he's brilliant, of course. He's one
no
of my,
doubt.
One of
he's
my
your
children.
kid.
Yes. He's the chairman of the department of a whole bunch of radiology people.
Wow.
In New Jersey. In St. Barnabas Hospital.
My brother's a doctor in Hackensack. Is that anywhere?
No, Hackensack's right across the bridge, but Hackensack's a very good hospital.
Oh, okay.
No question.
But he is not the, or is that not? He's not the director of the department.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So.
Come on, idiot brother, get yourself together. Joe's kid is already like running the entire department. Okay,
That's true.
go on.
And my daughter works for a company that you may have heard of. It's called Morgan Stanley.
Stop it!
Yeah, you heard of them?
You're widely successful children, Joe.
That is true.
How
Well,
proud! Every day you must wake up with the your pride.
And then I have a granddaughter. You didn't ask about her yet.
Let me guess. She's a concert pianist at age 2.
She's only 15,
Wow.
but she's brilliant. And she lives with my daughter. And she's a wonderful kid. Her name is Michelle. And she's the most important person in my family. And right after this, whatever time this stops, I'm going to see her. She lives on 72nd Street. So, and she goes to a nice school. As a matter of fact, she told me the other day that Trump's son goes to the same school, the little one.
Barron.
Barron. Is that his name? He's 9 or 10 years old.
10 years old. His name is Barron.
Yeah, you know that. Okay, so he goes to her school. Or she goes to his school, whichever one.
Right.
And that's the extent of my family.
Are you single?
My wife passed away January 23rd, 2015.
I'm sorry.
I think it's okay. Nobody is sorry than me. So,
And how long were you two together?
short time, 59 years.
Okay, so you were just getting to know each other.
We were
then.
just getting to know each other. It was what can I tell you? Anyway,
You got a good, solid, big portion of your life with her,
I did.
and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Wonderful lady.
That's
I
great.
don't know if Lance knows
I
her.
remember you.
She's beautiful. Was a beautiful lady,
Beautiful,
right, Lance?
wonderful woman.
Yeah. Thank you.
So the other, I don't want to use the word interesting, but something that I want to ask you about, and if you're okay talking about, is you are a Holocaust survivor.
Well, that's an interesting thing. I wasn't in a concentration camp. I wasn't in any of those kind of things. You can ask me about it. I guess you can say I'm a Holocaust survivor because I did get away from the Holocaust, so I was a survivor. I suppose you could say that. It's not like, I don't consider myself a survivor like somebody who was in Auschwitz or Bergen-Belsen or Theresienstadt, but I am a survivor. I'm a lucky survivor.
Explain
because
to
I'm
me.
here.
Explain what you mean. You were part of a program called Kindertransport.
You have to go back a little. So, I was born in Berlin, Germany. And,
What year?
You got this from there. You come
That's
up.
never going to happen.
Okay.
I've been out in the sun for 5 hours.
Well, you say,
That's
so
never
anyway,
going to happen, Joe. I am not a doctor, nor do I run Morgan Stanley.
1931.
1931, you're born in Berlin, Germany.
Born in Berlin, Germany. And I'm sure you've heard of the Nazis. They came to power. And a fellow by the name of Hitler was running the country. And there were all kinds of things that Jews couldn't do anymore. In 1933, he came to power. In 1936-37, they stopped Jewish children going to school. They closed up schools. Things were really terrible. So,
How much of that do you remember?
I remember a lot of it. I saw Hitler. I saw Hitler in a parade going down one of the main streets in Berlin. I was on the shoulder. I don't know if it was my brother or whoever, but I saw him going by in a parade. I think the year was probably 1936 or 37. I don't remember exactly. Anyway, things were terrible in Germany for Jews. Terrible. And there's a misconception in the world that says that why didn't the Jews go out? Why didn't they leave? Well, they wanted to leave, and Hitler wasn't stopping them either. But there was nobody that wanted to take them. Nobody. There were some exceptions. If somebody had some money, maybe they could get a visa, maybe to Venezuela or Argentina or Curacao or maybe Cuba. So a few people got out, but most of them didn't.
But it wasn't like today where Jordan took all thousands and thousands of Syrians across the border.
My parents couldn't go anywhere. So the British people decided that the British Jewish people decided that they would harangue the British government to taking in 10,000 children without their parents.
10,000 Jewish
10,000
kids
Jewish,
from Berlin.
99%. No, they came from Germany, they came from Poland, they came from Czechoslovakia. Have you heard of Sir Nicholas Winton?
No.
You have not. That's very interesting. That's something you might want to get into. Sir Nicholas Winton, very interesting. You can Google him. You can fabulous character. Anyway, England agreed to take in 10,000 children without their parents.
Just the children.
Just the children, and they had to be under 17. And the reason for that was they didn't want the children to come into England to take away jobs.
Okay.
Okay. So they decided to take in 10,000 children, and very slowly they took these in. I think I gave Lance a video, so
Yes.
you learned some of that. Should I repeat it? Or?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay.
Where were they supposed to go?
So it became known as the Kinder transport. Kinder spells Kinder, and it means children, and it's called the Kinder transport. It's extremely wide known in the world now because it's gotten a tremendous amount of propaganda, and they're still an organization. Anyway, so they decided to take in these 10,000 children, but they couldn't all come at once, because you just don't put 10,000 children on a train. So they started to put them on trains coming out of Berlin, coming out of Vienna, coming out of Prague, various of those countries, and very slowly they came to England by train. So they called that train the Kinder transport. However, that isn't exactly what happened to me. Instead of leaving from Berlin, my mother took me to the German-Dutch border by train in December of 1938, and it was very cold. And the next morning, we walked to the border, said goodbye to my mother, my sister and I, and we crossed into Holland, where people that started to take care of us, and we went into a camp, not a bad camp, just a camp. It's like a transit camp going to England. And that was December, and every day they took in about 100. They called out the names of about 100 children. Today you're from the camp. Today you're going to England. So, am I getting into too much detail?
There's no such thing. But can I ask you a question? How old were you at the time?
7.
7 years old, and your sister was?
12.
And she was with you?
She was all the time.
When you said goodbye to your mom, did you think that was the last time you were going to see her?
I would say that we didn't really think about it. We probably thought maybe we'll see them again.
Did you?
The answer to that question is yes, and that's interesting too.
Okay, so now you're 7 years old.
7 years old.
You're in this camp in Holland.
And they call out the names of children going to England today, and they called out me, but they didn't call my sister. So somehow or other, and I can't tell you how that happened, my sister got a hold of my mother. Now, there were no telephones. I just don't know how she did. And my mother said to her, "Don't let him go."
Oh.
So my sister said, pretty smart lady, still alive today, living in England. My sister said, "Let him go." So I went. And we got on the train.
Your mom said, "Don't let him go."
Don't
and
go.
your
My
sister
sister said, "Let him go. Let him go. Let him go." Because she figured, I guess she figured, and she was very smart, that maybe eventually she'll go too.
Oh.
So anyway, this is becoming too detailed, is it?
No, this is
good.
proper amount of detail.
So I arrived in England in April of 1939. The war was not yet on. The World War II didn't start in 1941, which it did here. It started in Europe in 1939, September of 1939. So I arrived in England, and I remember getting off. You have to go train to the North Sea, and then get on a ferry or a boat to go to England. So I remember getting off the boat, and I didn't have my shoes on. I was only 7. I forgot my shoes. So I arrived in England in socks. But that was not too terrible, because later on I became a manufacturer of socks. I guess that was a pretty...
Sure, you should have realized.
Right away.
Sign of
That's a bunch of nonsense too. But anyway, we arrived. We then took a train from the coast to London. And there is a station in England called... Have you ever been to London?
Yes, many times.
Have you heard of Liverpool Street Station?
Yes, I have.
Well, next time you go to Liverpool Street Station, I want you to go to the main entrance, and there is a big statue and a monument to the children that arrive in England, the Kinder transport. There's a whole thing. There's a very famous sculptor called Meisel. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's an Israeli sculptor. You can look him up. He made that memorial, and that also exists in Holland and I believe in Poland also. I'm not exactly sure. Anyway, we arrived there, so we went to a hostel, which is a home for Jewish boys. So I went there, and I was in this hostel with all these Jewish boys. And then in June, somehow or other, my sister came to me, I found that she'd arrived in England, and now I'm almost 8 years old. So I was a relative of mine was in that hostel with his cousin, and he and I decided to go visit my sister. So we walked about 3 or 4 miles in London.
Did you have shoes?
Yeah, I had shoes.
Okay.
By that time I had shoes. Very, very nice shoes. Beautiful, beautiful. And we arrived at the door of where my sister was staying. She was staying with a Jewish tailor. His name was Levitt. Very nice man, Jewish man. Took in my sister, and my sister knocked on the door, and my sister said, and I may have read that, my sister said she saw 2 of the dirtiest children she ever saw in her life. Ears were dirty, clothes were dirty. Anyway, they fixed us up, and had a nice time, and then we went back to the hostel. And then the war started. September of 1939, Germany invaded Poland. That was the start of World War II. And this is now September, and the British government knew that they were going to be bombed by the Germans. There was no question about it. The British government decided to send out all the children, not just us, but British children, us, into the countryside so they shouldn't get devastated, like, for instance, Aleppo or something,
right.
Something like that, right? So we all went to so some of us went to this town, some of us went to that town. My sister and I got on the bus, and we arrived in a town called Chelmsford, which is about 30 miles northeast of London. There's a Chelmsford, Massachusetts also, so maybe it's something like that. Anyway, and then we arrived at the bus station, and there were all kinds of local people taking in some of the children. Some took this, some took that. A lady came from and took us in, young couple, my sister and I, and we went to the best part of town in a very nice house. The man had a car, she just had a baby. It was very nice. Didn't treat us terribly, but not terrifically. But about right after Christmas, we were then 1950. Am I going into too much detail?
No.
Not even enough.
So in 1939, in December, right after Christmas, the lady who'd taken us in told the local billeting office where they had, distributed the children out, that she couldn't take care of us anymore. She had a baby, and it was too much. So the billeting office then assigned us. We just came from the best part of town to the poorest part of town. A widow who already had 3 or 4 children of her own, and she'd already taken us, one of the people like me, and she took us in because she was probably getting a little bit of money from the local building office to take care of us. And I lived there from 1940 until 1943, 44, and I had the best time of my life. I don't think I had the worst time of my life, but I will tell you I had the best time of my life. I'm better now, but there were no bathrooms in the house. The toilet was outside. I took a bath once a week in the kitchen in a tub. And I got a little job as an office boy from a steel scrap metal manufacturer in town, guy. And I got this job, and I had a very nice time. He gave me a bicycle. Nobody had a bicycle. And I then had a paper route, and then I brought home rolls in the morning. Just a lovely place. And they'd sent us away from London to get away from the bombing. However, Chelmsford, the home of Chelmsford is a company called Marconi. I don't know if you've heard of Marconi.
The radio?
The radio people. Everybody thinks that was invented in Italy. Not true. It was invented, that company started in Chelmsford, England. Started the Marconi Radio and Wireless Company, who did all kinds of work. And next to it was the Hoffman Munitions Factory, where they made ball bearings. And this was about a mile away from where we were living, across the railroad tracks. And then the Germans also decided to bomb the munitions factory. So now they're bombing us.
Right.
And the British, everybody had an air raid shelter. And our air raid shelter was in the house, was a steel table, and we crawled under the table, so if the house fell down, at least maybe we were safe. So the Germans started bombing us, and we were under this table at night, and I was crying, because if you get bombed, you're crying. It's not very good. When windows are going out and fires are down the street.
So far, that's the most poignant sentence. If you get bombed, You were crying. That's one way to put it. I'm sure you were terrified.
No question about it. I was definitely terrified. Whatever it was. So now I'm Jewish, right? And the people I'm living with are not Jewish. They did not try to convert me at all. Not at all. As a matter of fact, I went with her to church and sang in the church choir. It was kind of nice. And it was all very nice. However, the Jewish organization in London, which kept track of us, decided that since I'm Jewish, I should be a mitzvah and I should go to a Jewish thing. So they came to get me. They got all the other Jewish children who had gone to Chelmsford and got them out. I was the last, my sister was with me, the last surviving Jews in Chelmsford. And I cried when they came to get me, so I wouldn't go, but eventually they made me go. So I went to a little town called Ely, and I went into a Jewish hostel where a bunch of Orthodox Jewish children. I learned how to daven, you know what davening is, right? And I learned my Hebrew, and I had a bar mitzvah.
Daven is to pray.
Daven is to pray, thank you. I think it's also a Hebrew word, right?
Yeah,
It's
but it's like
great.
for the people here who don't.
Yeah. So I had my bar mitzvah, and I had a huge amount of people at my bar mitzvah in the amount of one. So who was the one?
Your sister.
You got it. Question answered. My sister was there, who had gone now to live in London, because she was now 5 years older than me, and she'd gone back to London, and she was working for the American Red Cross, which was next to Tottenham Court Road. I don't know if you know that. That's a part of London. Pretty famous place, pretty famous square. And I had my bar mitzvah, and I went to school. I had gotten to a decent school, and then the actual school, that's an interesting story. The actual school I went to first there was called the JFS, which is the abbreviation for Jewish Free School, which was a school that had been evacuated out of London so that they would be evacuated. So I went there, and then I went to another school. That school now in England, JFS, is the best Jewish school in the entire United Kingdom. It's a wonderful, wonderful school located back in London. Anyway, so the war is over, and we had gotten Red Cross messages. My parents, we're going back to my parents now, they left Berlin and fled to Belgium, right at the beginning of the war. And they lived in Belgium hiding in World War II, hiding from the Nazis.
They didn't know where you were?
They had an idea where we were. We were in London. We were in England. They knew we were in England. And during the war, you could send 25-word messages by Red Cross. They went from London to the Red Cross in Switzerland, and somehow or other the Red Cross knew where you were, so they sent the letter back. So if they wrote a letter in July, you might get it in December.
Meanwhile, sometimes I send an email and the person doesn't even get it. These
No
people are
email.
sending to 15
Terrible.
countries, and they're getting the Red Cross hand-delivered, like by Pony Express.
It's terrible. It's terrible. So I have copies of these letters even today.
Really?
Yeah, well, yeah, so I have copies. Anyway, so my brother, I also had a brother, is deceased. He lived in Detroit. That's another issue. Anyway, he went into the British Army in England, and when the war ended, we found out my parents were still alive, living in Brussels, Belgium, and he applied for compassionate posting, and they posted him to Brussels, and he lived outside of Brussels, and my mother started saw my parents again, and this is 1945, and he was close to my mother and father. They were living in Brussels. They had survived the war. They were living in a little apartment, and then the question is, how would my sister and myself see my parents again? So in 1946, until then, we got on a plane, Sabina Airline, it's the old Belgian Airlines, and we flew from London to Brussels, and my parents were waiting for me at the airport, and then the problem occurred, right? You remember, yes, the problem occurred. My parents now spoke German, they spoke Flemish, because that's what they speak in Belgium. They spoke Yiddish, and my parents were originally from Poland, which is a whole other issue. I have a whole movie about them.
What part of Poland?
Huh?
What part of Poland?
The town is called Oświęcim. You know what Oświęcim is?
No, my grandfather came from Sopocz.
Oświęcim is the Polish name for Auschwitz. Did you know that, Connie?
I kind of deduced that.
Yeah. Anyway, they were born. My mother was born, and my mother was one of 14 children. They were all born in Auschwitz. So anyway, I'm now in where the baggage arrived in the Brussels airport. There's only one problem. I spoke English. My parents did not. I had forgotten all my German, and I couldn't speak it. But my sister could. She had gone to school. But and the interesting part of all that is, and I keep telling everybody, if you learn something once, you will never ever forget it. People, in 2 weeks' time, my German came out. I now speak fluent German. I mean, it's not a technical German, because when I went to school, I didn't know about philosophy or science or some of those words I don't know, but most of the things. So I saw my parents, and they lived in Brussels, and the only way my father could make a living, he didn't have any money after all. They all worked in the black market. Everybody knew that. The Belgians would not let him take a job because they didn't want foreigners taking jobs. I have a feeling I'm talking too much.
No, it's even. I think it's 50-50.
No, you have people
between
here
the two
who are
of us.
asking.
50-50, hatsi.
Some
What?
people who are saying that, it's a fascinating story. They're wondering if you've ever written a book. They think that this should be made into a movie.
Yes.
So those are just the recent things. That
Okay, so anyway,
people are.
my sister is all a part of all this, you understand that. So anyway, they wanted me to come to Belgium, but I didn't want to come to Belgium. I'm English. I'm a subject of His Majesty the King. I loved the King. I loved England. I loved everything about it. I was going to football matches. Anyway, the only place we could get to was the United States for the family to reunite. And visas were hard to get even those days, even after the war, but there was a quota. My father and mother were born in Poland, so the quota went to where you were born, not because they lived in Germany. So they won the Polish quota, which wasn't a very good quota. But in 1949, we got visas to come to the United States. And then, in May 13th, 1949, we arrived at Hoboken, New Jersey, on the New Amsterdam, which was the Holland-America line, and that was the headquarters of Holland-America line in New York at that time. It isn't anymore. And my brother had proceeded. We had sent him out. You know what a shliach is?
Yeah.
This is like it's a person that you send out to find out what's going on in the world. And so we sent my brother. He came to America, and he looked around. It wasn't too terrific, but he rented an apartment for us from a couple that was going to Long Beach for the summer. So he rented took a 3-month lease from them for us. So 157th Street in Manhattan. You know where that is, right? I don't know where you live. Where?
I used to live in Washington.
There you go. Well, that's not Washington Heights. It's south of Washington Heights. So we got to this apartment, and shall I leave?
No, you go ahead. No, I'm going to switch families.
Keep going.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're not bored?
Not at all.
Sure.
Positive.
So we got to 157th Street, got the apartment. It must have been about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And
All of you.
all of my brother, myself, my father,
Your sister stayed in London.
my sister was still in London.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Call me.
It's the curse of love.
Take the case.
Get your name.
Catherine.
And that's Connor.
It's Connor. Did you know Connor before you got here?
No. The only person I know is Lance. Now I know you.
You know me.
Still on?
Yes.
Okay, so now you get to your apartment at 157th Street.
And I told my mother that I'm going to go for a walk. And I go for a walk, I go downstairs, and I turn left on 157th Street. And at the end of the street, I come to a bunch of steps going down. So I took these steps going down, and at the bottom of these steps, thousands of people are milling around. What in the world is going on here? I have no clue. A guy comes over to me. This is unbelievable. A guy comes, he says, "Hey kid, you want a ticket?" I said, "Sure." So the next minute, I am in a stadium called the Polo Grounds. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Polo
Sure.
Grounds. The Polo Grounds was the original home of the New York Giants baseball team. I am now sitting behind home plate. Now just keep in mind now, I had never heard of baseball, didn't know anything about baseball, nothing. I'm sitting under the netting behind the catcher. I probably have the best seat in the house, sitting next to this guy that gave me this ticket. And he never said a word to me the whole night. I'm in this stadium. It's a lighted stadium I never saw a stadium with lights on it in my whole life, because in England they didn't have it in those days. And the Giants are playing. It's not the Dodgers. It's one of the other teams. I can't remember now. At 11 o'clock at night, I came home. My mother was ready to kill me.
Sure. I'm ready to kill you.
Yeah. So first day in America, I'm at a famous baseball ground, and there is that unbelievable?
That's crazy.
That
It's
is.
pretty close to where you're
May
living,
13th.
Right?
Look,
The Polo Grounds is pretty close. to where you-
157th. The Polo Grounds is at 157th Street.
Right. So
It's right there. It's right there. It doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
But it's right. But the steps are all still there because it's a higher ground.
And what year was this year?
This is 1949, May
Yeah, this is
13th.
before Willie Mays.
You can look up. Willie Mays was not there.
No, not there.
No, he wasn't there yet. No.
All right. So now Mom wants to kill you.
Mom wants to kill me. So anyway. So you want to go on, or you want to stop?
Well, I mean, it depends. Are you going to go on and then eventually reach 2016?
It's going to be a long time.
It's going to be a
You
long
better
time.
stop.
Well, I will stop you right there and just say, it's first of all, it's amazing that you remember so many details of it.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't as traumatic as I would. It doesn't sound from
If
you
you
telling
talk to my sister,
it. Yeah.
she will tell you that, maybe you weren't as happy as you think. If you had talked to my wife, she would say I probably need psychology.
How did you meet your wife?
I met her through my mother. Had a friend who was my wife's grandmother, so I met her. And they lived in Washington Heights.
Did you stay in what your parents stayed in Washington?
No.
Heights?
After the 3-month rental was over, so my mother went around looking for apartments, and she found an apartment in Inwood. Inwood is the northern part of Manhattan.
Right.
Baker Field, the Columbia Sporting Grounds, right there. So that's where we lived.
I asked you how you managed to get to 85 and be so healthy. You said luck. Do you also use the word luck to describe how a small Jewish family in Berlin, in the 30s somehow escapes, separates, reunites, gets visas, ends up in New York City together,
One story
united?
of 10,000. There are 49,999 stories that are just as good, or just as bad. Some of those people, some of those children stayed in England. Some of those children went to Israel and fought in the 1948 War of Independence. Some of them went to Australia. So there are a lot of stories. You're just listening to mine.
But do you call that luck? What is the word you use for that? How
I
did that
don't know.
happen?
Muslim,
It is Mazel.
right?
Yes.
It's just, you were lucky. I could have stayed in Berlin and be the end of that. My parents, I have to tell you one story, just as an aside. The people took their children to the train station. I told you my mother didn't because she so people took the children to the train station and they said goodbye to the children and said, we're going to England on the train station. There was one father that put his daughter on the train. She was, 5 or 6 years old. He could not bear parting with her. He pulled her off the train and she never lived. So there's another story. So have you heard of Sir Richard Attenborough?
Yes.
Good. He took in children in England. His father called him in and he said, we're taking in 2 children from the kinder transport. He said, and we have to tighten our belts, because he wasn't that rich in those days. It wasn't. So he took in 2 women, 2 girls. I think he died last year or the year before. They were close as apple pie, that family and Sir Richard Attenborough. Not Jewish.
Wow.
We had a reunion in London where he spoke. 2,000 of us were there a few years ago. Everybody cried. Everybody cried when he told us the story. Okay, so I'm not in 2016, so it's going to take a long time to get here.
Are you still as close with your sister?
100%. Next year, my sister's 90, and my brother-in-law is 99. And next Wednesday, the day after Rosh Hashanah, I'm flying to London. And on Sunday, we're having a nice luncheon for him for his 99th birthday.
So Joe, I know you say the word is luck. There's got to be something to it. I don't know if it's resolve or it's emotional stamina. But what is the secret? What is it? Tell me.
I wish I knew what the secret is. Is that my phone?
Who is it? Who is it? Don't they know you're talking? Who is it?
It's probably some stupid robocall. Yeah, it is. We're gonna hang up. Forget it.
Forget it. Forget that guy.
Forget it.
Probably QVC asking for
No.
some robocalls.
I think it's actually Trump. He wants me to come over to his house.
Trump wants you to come to his house. If I've gotten that call once, I've gotten it 1,000 times. No, Trump. I'm talking to Joe. Tell me.
Yeah,
Tell me what it is. Give me something.
I think I'm an optimist now. I don't know if I was optimist when I was a child, but all those things, I was lucky that I was able to roll with all that. And I wasn't thinking of my parents all the time. You know, you may say, well, how come you weren't thinking of your parents? I was 7 years old, 8 years old. You're not busy thinking of your parents all day long.
Right.
And what the trouble is. So it's luck.
What's your philosophy?
Philosophy is be an optimist and do the best you can. I lost my wife and I wasn't good for a year at all. I'm not that terrific now, but I wasn't good for trauma. That's trauma. So I don't know. I'm lucky. I came to America, and this is one of the toughest countries in the world if you come as an immigrant. Don't think it's easy. All these Mexicans, when they come here, they're not living the life of Riley here. So it's a very tough place to come. My father loved the country when he was. Think about my father. He was 49. He was 53 years old. He came to America, couldn't speak English. When you do that, no money. Hey, we were lucky. Look at all these nice buildings. This is kind of nice.
Trump owns all of them.
Trump really doesn't own any. Just puts his name on it. That's it. He owns nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Did you watch that debate last night?
I did.
Were you informed or entertained?
I was. Well, there was nothing that came out that I didn't know.
Okay.
But he just shouted his way through the whole thing. I mean, I'm voting for Hillary. I don't know who else is voting for Hillary. How can you vote for Hillary? I mean, it's impossible. I think it's impossible. Maybe you're voting for me.
I'm not.
Okay, I'm not here to. I'm not here to discuss politics.
No, nor should you. I was just curious.
Yeah, but I watched.
You talked about this country and how easy and hard it was. I was just curious if you were following the political season.
Yeah, well, I think there's so many things that are good here, and there are a lot of things that are wrong here. Everybody doesn't have health care. And the social programs are not so terrific either. So, but anyway, it's a great country out of all the countries. Although they did a survey of happy people in the world, we're number 15, right?
14 countries beat us?
Yes, Canada's number 6, I think, or 7, something like that.
Number 1 was?
One of the Scandinavian countries.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's always the Scandinavian countries.
Can't trust them, right?
They're so happy.
Did you see the movie that what's his name made? Michael Moore?
No.
Oh, you have to go see it.
Which one?
Something about an invasion, but it's nothing to do with military. He goes all over the world finding out why they're happy and what's wrong with what's good with them, what's wrong with us. He makes those kind of movies.
Are you happy?
I'm content.
What's the difference?
I'm not sure.
Good job.
I'm happy. I'm happy. I smile. I'm pretty good. Not bad. I have great kids.
Great kids.
Great kids. They keep me going. So
great granddaughter.
Great, wonderful, terrific. And so I'm content, I guess.
What advice would you give me to be able to be as spry and as content as you are at age 85? Being optimist can't be.
It's like they asked 100-year-old people, how'd you get here? And they said, well, I smoked my smoke.
That's what I always hear. So I'm sitting next to one right now.
I have golfed with Joe, and I've golfed with a lot of other people in my life. Joe does just walk the course, and you think, doesn't have a care in the world. It's literally like watching Tigger on the golf course. It's like hard to imagine. It's just like he just walks with a bounce and a step, and he has this. He carries himself.
Yeah. I try
And
not
what
to,
is that?
Try not to drive myself and everybody else crazy. I guess you have to. I don't know. I wish. Yeah. I wish. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not skilled in psychiatry and all that kind of stuff. So I really don't know. I'm lucky and I'm healthy and well, I tell you what it is. A lot of people don't take care of themselves. They say they're taking care of themselves. Like I have a lot of friends that have stomachs up to here, and they're on a diet, right? You know that they're on
Yeah,
a diet.
of course. The
Oh,
whole
I'm on a
world.
diet. I lost 5 pounds last week.
Yeah.
Great. You're looking terrific. And then they gain another 5, and then pretty soon they don't take. A lot of people just don't take care of themselves.
What do you eat for breakfast every day, Joe?
I have for breakfast this morning. I had raisin bran.
Just a bowl of raisin
Raisin
bran.
bran. But I'm on a diet. You know?
Of course.
So no, I have one stupid habit,
Let's hear
and
it.
my children, I think, have inherited. We weigh ourselves every day.
That's your bad habit?
We weigh ourselves every day, and if we've gained a pound or two, the next day the eating will be
Good
adjusted
for you.
accordingly.
You know how many people can do that? So few people.
Yeah.
So few.
that's
That
true.
is not
Yeah,
a bad habit.
That's true. So that keeps me going.
You have no other vices?
I don't know. No, not really.
Chocolate, Diet Coke, smoking, anything?
I smoked 3 packs a day when I was young, about 40 years ago.
Always with the guy that lives to be 85.
40 years ago, maybe I smoked. My kids said if you're going to keep smoking, we're not going to talk to you, or they're not going to camp. I can't remember what it was, or whatever it was.
Chocolate?
Chocolate, yeah.
Bad habit?
I came from. You live in this building.
Yes.
So there's a store between 62nd and 63rd Street on Broadway. You got it?
Yes.
You know where the Lincoln movie is?
Very well.
Next door is a store called the Bread Store. You ever see it?
It's called the bread store?
Bread Store. I want you to go there.
Okay.
It is the #1 bread store in New York.
Is it the one where you walk in and everything's on the left-hand side, like you get your own croissant or whatever, and then you walk over and you buy
That's
it?
one of it. But they make baguettes
Yeah.
and challah.
It's amazing.
The best in the world.
Yeah, I stopped there once to get something for the kids.
You
and
like
almost had a heart
you like
attack.
babka?
I like a chocolate babka more than I like my children.
I should have
Joe.
brought one. We wouldn't be doing this thing right now because you'd be over there eating.
Well, I would be on a scale after the babka. Then tomorrow I'd have to starve myself after what
And
I
they have
just
some.
had.
I give these when I come to town. I always go there. As a matter of fact, I got a challah in there right now. So my granddaughter, they can't wait. And
It's the best thing.
The best
It
bread
is the
store.
best.
And they have a
best.
store in Union Square, and they have a store in Bryant Park.
Okay, I know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to go there in honor of you, Joe. I will have that chocolate babka, calories or not.
They're 2 for 20, so 1 for $12.95. So you have to buy 2.
Perfect, I can do that.
Okay.
This is really nice, and I know you keep thinking you told me too much, and there were too many details, and sometimes it's it's actually never too much, but sometimes it's nice to hear someone else's journey.
Yeah.
Just to get a sense of, I see you and I would pass you on the street
Sure.
and I would say, oh, there's an
another
older
man.
gentleman and whatever, and you would come and you would go in and out of my consciousness and that would be it.
That's right.
And yet, look how much I learned about you and where, how far you came to get here. It's a great story. I hope your kids know it. I hope your granddaughter knows it.
They know it. I can tell you lots of different stories. I have many more stories to tell you about. My interest in being here today, I just no idea what we were doing. Lance said come, so I came. So my kids said, what are you going to do there? I said, I don't know. I said, maybe I'll bring coffee for the host.
So funny.
I said, maybe one of those things. So I want you to tell it to somebody. I want you to tell it. I want you. I had this crazy guy, and he tells us this story. So things must go. We have to retell our stories, particularly these kind of stories where you were saved. What about all these Sudanese and all these? They're not. What kind of stories are those? So you have to keep telling these stories.
Does it break your heart to read what is happening around the world?
It
Talk
doesn't
about
make me
Syria.
feel good. It doesn't make me feel good.
You know it. You've been there. You lived through it.
Terrible. Well, they're in worse shape, right? Terrible. It's terrible. Nobody cares, basically, anymore.
And there are no countries that are taking them in any sort
No,
of
there are not. But there was
capacity.
there's a thing called Peter Pan. children from Cuba came to America. I think it's called Peter Pan. You have to look it up on the internet. I can't remember exactly. Where
type
children
program.
came from Cuba doing Fidel Castro, and they let the children out. They came to America. Most of them are living, I guess, in Florida or Orlando.
Wow.
Similar story.
Well, Joe.
So we're done, right?
I mean, we reached the end
We've
of
reached the
your
end.
story, and it's a story that I will tell other people.
I would
Did you look? Did I keep you too long?
No, I'm good.
Oh,
I'm going to
okay,
see
good.
my granddaughter.
Are you excited?
I see her a lot. I see her twice a week sometimes.
What are you guys doing today?
We're going to have dinner. She's coming home from school, and I'm going to have dinner with her. Then I'm going home.
I love it.
Yeah,
It's a
take her home.
jam-packed day, Joe. It's a jam-packed
Thank
day.
you very much.
Yeah, I don't know how you're going to squeeze it all in. Listen, next time you come, chocolate babka,
I'll bring it.
you bring it.
Challah.
Challah. Maybe.
You won't believe the taste of the challah.
No, I probably haven't had a good piece of challah. Let's face it, I haven't had carbs in a really long time. You could basically throw a crumb at my face and I would like
Spit it out.
soak it up. Another story or two. And maybe bring Michelle next time you come.
You'll be delighted.
I'm sure I would.
And then the next time I come, you can come to my house in Long Island.
Okay.
And I will show you a professionally made movie of my mother's 14 children family. Professionally made. It's not something not a home movie. I have a cousin in Israel that is a movie maker.
Okay.
Documentaries. So I have
Would
it.
love to
I
see
can
that.
show you that. So
Show
you'll
Lance
be
and
absolutely
pass it along.
amazed. And then I have another one, which is about the life that I just described in a customer. So there you go.
Now I wish I could go back and ask my grandfather all these questions.
But that, by the way, is the problem. That is interesting that you say that, because a lot of people didn't ask their parents. People say, well, they came from. Well, I don't know where they came from. Where they came from, and they didn't tell me. Or they didn't want to talk about it.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
You have to. Okay.
And I wish I did.
It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so
and
much.
all you lovely people.
I really, really appreciate your time. I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your story.
And I hope it's interesting.
It was extremely interesting, and I'm sure people got a chance to really follow along and were moved. And it's blessed that you're here today.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
we'll see you soon.
Yes.
All right.
We'll come to Long Island.
I'll come to Long Island. I'll come
If you
to
make
Long
it, if you
Island.
have a disc of this one of these days, you'll settle.